Alright friends, today we're going to try out this mower. This is the Stihl 560K. RZ 560K. I knew it. I was just making sure you were listening. We're going to do some testing with it. I'm going to do the test that everybody gets mad at me about. I'm going to mow some 6-foot tall grass. We're going to just put this thing through the paces. But before I can do that, I've got to get suited up. Alright, I'm locked and loaded. Let's check this thing out. Now my Stihl rep just dropped this thing off for me to try out. I don't know a whole bunch about it yet. I'll just show you some things I've noticed right off the bat, and you probably have too. We'll go mow with it, and then I'll give you all the real specs on this machine. First thing everybody notices on this thing is look at this suspension here. This thing's got like a race car suspension on the front end of it. Really thick, heavy-duty deck. Turf tires. Kawasaki engine on this one. Tubular bumpers. Rear suspension. No suspension on the seat, but he told me we can upgrade the seat to a suspension seat. And gizmos and gadgets and widgets and watsits. Let's just get the mowing stuff out of the way. Everybody likes to see me mowing ridiculously tall grass with mowers and see if I can bog them down and kill them. Let's start with that, then we'll go through all the details on this mower. Okay, so this thing mows very tall grass just fine. I did figure out how to kill it, but this swamp grass that was 6 feet tall till it rained and fell over, got cut, got knocked down. This mower did it. Congratulations, Stihl, you've made a mower. Well, hold on, you don't make this mower. We'll talk about that in a sec. You have a mower that'll mow down tall grass, but I also mowed the rest of this place. This is a very rough property. It's basically cow pastures that have been converted to, well, pastures with no cows on them, and a little lawn area and a lot of gardens and technical areas I have to drive around, and some hills which zero turns can struggle on. And we'll talk about how this thing did on hills, because I was concerned, and then I was not as concerned. But let's talk about the first thing, the suspension on this machine. This suspension is extremely complex. There are linkages everywhere on this thing, nuts and bolts and adjustments. As a dealer, this thing feels like it would be kind of a nightmare to adjust everything correctly because the deck is tied into the suspension. There's a lot of stuff going on here. Even just figuring out what parts you might need seems a bit complex. But with that complexity comes an amazing ride. This mower is fast, 10 miles an hour fast, maybe faster. I mean, it's ludicrous how fast this thing is, and the suspension really eats up all the lumps and bumps we have out here, so I didn't feel like I just went 3 rounds with, what's that boxer's name? Logan Paul? Mike Tyson. We'll just say I don't feel like I went 3 rounds with Mike Tyson or got in a car wreck after operating this stuff, going full speed, because that's the only way you're gonna do it. Your sticks in, sticks, oops, emergency brake off, sticks ahead full send, no holding back. That's just how you're gonna operate one of these mowers. Of course you are. Full speed, let's go. I had to wear my seatbelt while going full speed so I didn't get thrown out of the seat. I think it would be a good idea to upgrade to the suspension seat on this thing though, and just take some of those bumps out, because the suspension works great, but it can't defy the laws of physics. So the more cush you have under your tush, if you're running on a very, very, very rough property like this, the better. But let's talk about hills. Hills are the arch nemesis of the zero-turn mower. Zero-turn mowers struggle greatly with them. People with hilly properties avoid them. I found the handling on hills with this thing to be very good once you learn how to control it, because the controls move a very short space. You don't really have to push these controls very hard to move the machine. So you've got to kind of just ginger yourself into every movement. We're not really moving our arms a bunch, which is nice because you don't get a bunch of operator fatigue. But once you learned to control the machine softly and gently without making big sudden movements, it controlled very well, especially on hills. This thing felt like it was glued to hills. I have never ridden any type of mower that felt like it had a lower center of gravity and was keeping me on hills better. I went up and down hills on this property that I normally would not go up and down on with a lawnmower. It did an amazing job. Now, of course, they only rate this thing for 15 degrees, but I'm just here to tell you, this thing does amazing work on hills. It was the most impressive thing to me all day, more impressive than the speed or the very, very complicated suspension system. Operator comfort wise, this thing feels like you're sitting in a recliner. If you're 7 feet tall, you probably won't have a problem riding on this mower. You have tons of room. When you're pulling the sticks back, they don't go into your guts. You barely pull the sticks back at all to reverse. There's about 2 inches of throw on these sticks in reverse. In going forward, probably about 6 inches, but 2 inches in reverse, top speed of 5 miles an hour in reverse. And by having such short stick throw going in reverse, it was very easy to break traction with the rear tires. So when you're coming to the end of your row going 10 miles an hour, you don't want to suddenly stop and try to reverse because you're going to break traction and tear the ground. So you're going to plan ahead when you get towards the end of the row, slow down, and then just ginger carefully reverse one of your wheels so you're not tearing up the ground, because this thing was very apt to tearing because you don't have much of a throw here to deal with. Something else about having a giant big operator station that's very comfortable to sit on. Does this thing have armrests? It does. I don't know why you'd use armrests on a zero turn. Anyway, something that does have to do with the comfort is the location of the lowering and lifting pedal for the deck. The deck height has a lot of options on it, actually kind of overwhelming when you first look at it. There's a pin that you put into your desired height. Then you have to push this pedal, release a brake, and then lower the deck to your desired height. That's how zero turns usually do it in one way or another. But this pedal is made for somebody who's a little taller than me, obviously, because I've got to really stretch to use this thing. I don't see any straightforward way to like get this pedal closer to me. I think I could flip it so it's a little closer. But boy, if you don't have long legs, using this deck lift is going to be very, very difficult for you. I'm here to tell you. If I'm doing some gripes, I could also gripe about the fact that the side discharge restrictor can only be down. It doesn't really hold itself up. There's ways you can hold it up. You're not supposed to have it up. But out here, when I'm just cutting and throwing, I don't like having the big thick windrows that you get from using a discharge restrictor. I usually flip mine up and disperse the grass while making sure no children or pets are in the general area. This discharge restrictor just lays on the ground and makes thick windrows, but it is easy to rake it up if you want to do that. There are mulch kits available and bagging units available for this machine though, if you don't want to discharge. Let's get one more close look at this mower, kind of see the scenery, and then I'll come up with a little verdict here. Boy, because you're so far back in the seat, you do got to kind of hulk yourself up here. Now, I know I already talked a lot about the suspension, but here's just a really close look here. Look at this, all this linkage going on here. On the front, a spring, a shock absorber, more linkage here. This is a very complex system. We've got springs for raising and lowering the deck. The deck is tied into the suspension in some way. A lot of adjustments here, so if you like adjusting things, this is the mower for you. Look at this giant bar here. This is also on a pivot right there. So a lot of stuff going on with this suspension setup. If that's of a concern to you, you know, buyer beware, I guess. The rear end, not quite as complex, but it does have some points of rotation, some more linkages. I mean, there's just stuff everywhere on this mower. You can step on the deck to get on. That's nice. Greasable spindles. How nice is that? Most mowers don't have greasable spindles anymore. Cleaning these spindle areas out, which is very important, is easy because the side's open. You can just blow the grass out. The deck is very thick. It's 10 gauge metal with some reinforcements, but it does have some kind of nooks and crannies in here. So if you're being fastidious and cleaning your deck out on a regular basis, which you should do, it takes a little more work. Getting into the deck, we unscrew this little screw here. We lose it because there's no good place to put it. You put it here, right here. That's just a flippy flapper, so it'll fall through that. We'll just put it there and lose it. So we can get to some of the deck from the top here. 2 belts spinning the deck and a belt spinning the transmission pumps. I was getting some belt slap while using this. I think I would need to tighten up the tensioners a little bit more out here. We're getting some chatter, but they are adjustable. Now, I would like to lift up the seat and show you the rest of the area under there, but to lift up the seat, you need 2 hands, and I'm holding a camera. There's a lever right here in a very inconvenient place that you pull, and then with another hand, you got, oh, hold on, I can do it one-handed. Okay, not as hard as I thought. So a lot of access here to the rest of your pulleys and spindles and everything, and your belts, and a lot of linkages. I mean, there is a lot of engineering went into this thing. And speaking of, who made this thing? Well, to my understanding, this machine was made by Ferris, not by Stihl, but Stihl likes complicated stuff sometimes. And this one's definitely got some complications, like a couple girls I dated in high school. But hey, lots of parts, a lot of fiddly stuff. That's just the way the world works anymore. A fine-tuned machine. It's like a sports car is what's going on here. I did get some grass buildup on top of these hydro pumps, so something to keep aware of there. You don't want those getting too hot, and grass buildup can make them get hot. Cleaning out the engine bay. I know I'm talking a lot about cleaning things, but it's very important to clean this stuff so you don't get fires. You know, took a little time because there's a bunch of nooks and crannies in here as well. But boy, just look at this. Just take a good look at this. There's a lot going on here. A lot. For maintenance, not too bad. Fuel filters here. There's a vent filter here, which is interesting. You don't see those too often. Oil fills here, oil drain right there, oil filter somewhere. Actually, where is the oil filter? Well, I don't know. I guess oh, there it is. Oil filter's right down here. Right there. Okay. Not too terrible to get to this. This Kawasaki engine's a good engine. Very, very loud. It provided sufficient power for this machine, but I tell you, when you did push the sticks forward all the way to go to ludicrous speed instantly, that engine bogged down. And I was able to bog this machine down if I really pushed it in thick grass above, say, 6 inches tall. It would bog down a little bit, so be aware of that. A little tow hitch on the back, a little bumper. Good looking machine overall. Tires were sufficient. I never really had trouble braking traction. These are Carlisle Turf Masters. Nothing special there, but good tires. But yeah, overall, good machine. Seemed like it would be easy to maintain-ish. A lot of parts going on here. I'll tell you something that's stuck in my craw though, is this fuel tank right here. 5.5 gallons. I blew through that easy. Mowing for a couple hours out here, I ran out of gas fast. I think I could mow this whole place on a full tank if I was really careful, but I went through 5.5 gallons mowing 5 acres. So a gallon an acre, I think I was going through more than a gallon an hour. This thing is thirsty for sure. Who's this mower good for though? Is it good for anybody? I think so. I think a lot of people would enjoy this mower. You know, if you're a commercial operator, it might be a good choice for you, kind of hard to tell. I would have concerns about the suspension being so complicated if you can't afford to have any downtime. But geez Louise, with the reliability that Stihl usually has in their equipment, even though they don't make this, to my knowledge, Ferris makes it. I know they've got a commitment to quality. As a commercial operator, you could probably depend on this thing. They've been around a long time, they're not going away, and they have a good dealer network out there who repairs equipment. For a place like this, really lumpy and bumpy, this is a great mower. But for people with hills on their property, if you want a zero turn, I felt so confident with this thing. It was amazing. The ROPS inspire confidence, the seat belts inspires confidence, but this thing felt like it was glued to the ground. It weighs about 1,200 pounds, and it felt like this thing was sticking to the ground when I was on hills. I didn't feel it moving at all in a funny position. The controls aren't jerky, even though they're fast, they're not jerky. So I felt very confident and controlled doing hillside work with this mower. I was really, really, really impressed by this on hillsides. But this comes at a cost. This thing costs about as much as a decent Ford Ranger does. Right now, just a hair under 10 grand. So you're gonna pay for this mower. It's considered a commercial mower, but I think it's more aimed at residential users who want a commercial quality mower. The engines on this are these Hydro 3400s, great transmissions, but you know, that's commercial style stuff. But again, I feel like this is more geared towards a heavy duty residential user. That may be you. Would I buy one? Honestly, I was pretty impressed, yes. I probably would buy one of these if I already didn't have a perfectly good mower, because these hills out here are always a pain in the neck, and I could conquer them with this mower. And the lumps and bumps, I could power through them and not have to slow down, and it really cut down my mowing time. But I did have to stop and refill the gas tank, which kind of annoyed me. Well, whatever, you win some, you lose some. So there it is, the Stihl RZ 560K.